Welcome to Geppe's Pod, where we talk fashion, beauty, and lifestyle with a foundation in business, character development, and leadership. We will be learning from industry experts, hearing their stories, while taking action as we stand on the shoulders of giants. Hello, everyone. My name is Giuseppe Almeida, and I am the founder and CEO of Perfit. And we are the solution to finding perfect fitting clothing when shopping online. And today I am so excited to have Samantha Ray Chamberlain with us as our guest. She is the wine educator who operates educational sessions and experiences in Saskatoon area and beyond. Her mission is to create immersive experience that fuels authentic connection and community. Her lens on the world of wine is that behind each bottle, there are stories to be told, stories of people who produce it, the stories of the places of the grapes where they were born and grown, and the history behind them. Not only that, but she believes that learning about wine can greatly enrich your life and your connections. Samantha Ray, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I am so excited. You know, the reason why I reached out to you is because you are doing incredible things in the lifestyle area. And as Perfit and for the podcast, Geppe's Pod, one of the things that I love about what you're doing is the fact that you're building not only a space of knowledge and learning, but a space of community. Yeah. And that's the thing that really got me. And because of it, I want to start off asking just a very simple question, which is, by simple, that's loaded. Can you pinpoint when in your life you connected community with food and wine?
Yeah, I mean, it's the loaded question, but it's actually very easy for me because it really is the basis of everything. That moment is the basis of everything for me. So when I grew up in like a very middle-class household. You know, my dad was sober. My mom sometimes made some homebrew ciders or some wines, which I maybe like took a few out of once in a while. But yeah, very like not a lot of alcohol in the house or any experiences of wine or experiences like really any positive experiences with alcohol, I guess, if we're going to say that. You know, I had beautiful dinners like with my extended family and my grandparents, but just didn't really have that connection at home, I guess, as a teenager. So my high school sweetheart was Italian Canadian, and I got the opportunity to go to Italy at 16 years old. Amazing. That was the moment where everything changed for me. So Southern Italy, beautiful little town called Vico del Gargano on like the little spur of the boot of Italy. This was like not touristy. We stayed in family's apartment, and every lunch, which is, you know, the huge meal, everybody sat down. In fact, before lunch, we went and got the fresh goat cheese. We went and picked the figs, like very quintessential Italian. Like the story doesn't even sound real sometimes when I say it, but literally going to the family farm, getting the ingredients, cooking this whole meal, having this experience at the table for hours upon hours. And then the wine that was on the table was also from the family vineyard. And it was just such a beautiful experience. I'd never, and beyond just that experience, I think my experience at the table with my high school sweetheart's family at the time, they spent a lot of time at the table, and I was really invited into their space. It just really changed my whole world on what food and wine could mean beyond eating and drinking. It really became this piece of connection for people because you're sitting and you're spending time. When you're sitting, you're eating, you're drinking wine, you're really spending time. And that made its mark on me. And then, you know, I was only 16, so I didn't get right into wine, obviously. At 16 years old, that was the moment my eyes were open. And then sort of as soon as I came of age, or maybe a little before, I started like studying wine like crazy on my own. Like I became obsessed with the idea of wine, and it really pulled together so many pieces of things that I liked learning about, like history and geography and places and people. So that would be the moment. I could go on I could keep going, but that's the moment though, that this really, and I could say even since between now and then, it's this very European family centric kind of experience that I'm always that now trying to recreate. Really, if I'm being honest, that's what my business is about. Just trying to recreating a feeling. Honestly, that's it. Recreating a feeling and an experience and the feeling out of it.
You know, and that's one of the things when we had our initial talk, that we were trying to pinpoint, how do we actually, what are we chasing in this? Because anytime that we make a purchase, anytime that we make a decision, it's always based on a feeling, and that is such an important part of our decision-making process. It's so such an important part of who we are. We want to feel safe. We want to feel comforted. We want to feel connected. We want to feel a community. We want. So at 16 years old, you find yourself in Italy in this family. Can you pinpoint what that feeling of what, like what is that feeling? Like, how do you describe that feeling that you're trying to recreate?
I think first of all, it's belonging in a way. It really is this idea of like belonging to something, and then the feelings, because I don't want to always just say connection, because it is like deeper than that. I mean, connection, I don't know if you can get deeper than the word connection, but this idea of it is connection, actually. If I keep going back, it's this idea of belonging and then connecting with people. And then within that, it's like light, love, laughter, like this real joyous experience. Yeah. It's one of those things where it's like, when I think probably most people, I would hope that most people would have this experience, around a table or around food or something like that, where they have, felt that, and maybe it's chosen family and it's not family, right? Or just friends or that. So I guess I want people to feel that too. And that's why, maybe it's a pop-up event or a wine tasting. It can be a variety of things that I do. True hospitality is at the heart of what I do. Like really caring for people. It's not just about wine education. It's also about caring for you where you're at and your group, or maybe you're at my table, or maybe we're at your table, or maybe we're in your backyard, but really caring for people as well and meeting them where they're at.
When you're in that space, how do you know that is what you're actually doing? Because so many people have so many different backgrounds and so many different wants and desires and experiences that they want to experience when they are at one of those pop-ups or one of those events. And it's not easy to continuously show up for people and awe them of their expectations. So how do you know that you're hitting it, on the head, that you're hitting that nail on the head, that you're actually coming through with your desire?
I think it's twofold. I think first of all, for me, it requires a lot of working on you can speak to this as an entrepreneur, working on your business. Like business work is self-work. Like, you know what I mean? It's being really sure of who I am and what I want to say. So first of all, it's like really believing that the intention that I have is right, and believing that the things that I want to say or share are the right things. This almost comes from maybe like a slightly spiritual place, in the way of like, I really believe, like, I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't think that I was doing something good. I'm not, everybody does something to make money. That's fair. But I wouldn't do it if I didn't believe that there was a purpose for me in it. So just being sure of myself, and that I know this world, I know this zone a little bit. And then it's like caring for people is asking about people. Like, it really is, I guess that can come across a lot of, like, in a very practical way. Like, for example, this past Friday, I had sort of a bigger pop-up tasting event. So we have like other things going on. We had it in this beautiful studio downtown. And there was a 4-glass wine tasting. We had some astrological readings. There was like, it was a very cool interactive event. And in that case, I'm really just speaking to a group at once, and then interacting amongst them. So I think believing in my message, that what I'm saying about wine is, I guess it's in hopes that people connect with that, but also then going around the room and asking, like, have you had a wine like this? Is there ever a time you remember having wine at a certain place? It's really asking people about their experiences and their stories, and connecting what I'm doing with where they're at. So it's really, I guess all that to say, it's interactive. I don't know, like, it's not just me saying something, it's being interactive with people. And that really creates that, what I would hope, where people connect. And I mean, to be honest, like, not that it's about saying what people say, but the reason I keep doing this is because I keep walking away from a private tasting group or a big event. And the biggest thing for me is that when people say that, yes, people always say they leave with lots of knowledge, and other little tidbits, but that they walk away feeling inspired over everything, or inspired to try something new, or inspired by my story, or inspired by the story of this winemaker. That's really what's at the heart of it.
I find it really interesting, because at the end of the day, you spoke to before, that it really comes down to the understanding of connection and belonging, but it all really tied into quality time. And then I have to ask, because I don't like to just be very surface oriented, when it comes to your own personal love language, would you say that quality time is like one of your high values?
That is hilarious. I have never made that connection, and that is absolutely my number one. And I have never made that connection before. Like, I've never thought about it that way in connection to my business. But yes, quality time is my number one love language.
Oh, for sure. 100%.
Yeah, that's funny.
Well, here's the thing. What I try to do is I try to figure out how somebody ticks, right? Yeah. And why they tick that way, and why, the nuances of the human being. And that's what really interests me. And so as you're telling your stories, I'm just connecting these dots. I'm like, okay, Samantha's really high values are not just learning and creating this community, but it really comes down to, how can I be able to give of myself while also being able to receive? And when you've created this loop of giving and receiving, so you give of your time, you give of your knowledge, you give of your experiences, but then you're receiving amazing quality time. You're receiving this connection with people that make you feel as if you belong, and then in turn you give that to others, and it's so circular, and it's absolutely beautiful. So my question, and what you alluded to this earlier before it, is that entrepreneurial life really has an essence in spirituality. So how did you know that you needed to tie all of these things together in order to learn how to create the most quintessential part of your business, which is community?
Ooh, yeah, that's a good one. How did I know? It was definitely like a long process. And I would say that's like definitely a more recent process for me. I never tied any type of spirituality or like self-work into like what I wanted to create until I think it was just as I kept going as an entrepreneur, probably like started like seeing other people, seeing other people that I really looked up to as entrepreneurs and said, hey, what is there? You know, are they diving into something, you know, is there something else there? And I think through just like a few people who I started following, I started really looking at myself and looking at my business in a different way. And it actually changed everything for me because, so I would say I have almost most recently come to this place where I'm like really, really certain and excited and inspired about what I'm doing. I would say my entrepreneurial journey started because I was just sick of, I couldn't work for anybody anymore. That being said, I still have a 9 to 5, but I still make a little money on the, which, yeah, anyways, we won't talk about that. But I just came to the point where I was like, I am just not the person. Why do I feel different? Why do I not feel like the personality? Why can't I fit into the mold of 9 to 5? And I think once I let go of maybe I'm not supposed to fit into that mold, that's when everything changed. So, you know, looking into why am I the way I am? And let's work on me and what I want in my life and what I want my life to work or look like. And what I want my life to look like doesn't look like a normal 9 to 5 white picket fence, wait for the you know, wait for your pension to set in to have any fun. So
Yeah.
Anyways, that's a long way to say that like bringing spirituality into it is new for me, but it's changed everything. And the more, it's funny, I work on my business less now and I work on myself more and I see more fruit in my business than ever before.
Well, you have to, right? Because
Yeah.
you cannot show up authentically for the people that you serve if you aren't serving yourself first, if you aren't understanding who you are, if you aren't really delving in and saying, okay, well, how do I tick? And why do I tick this way? And why do I feel bothered when I feel this way, even though everybody else seems to have a good handle on this?
Yeah. Yeah.
What was the tipping point that allowed you to actually start diving into your self development?
I think I've been someone, so even though I just said it's been relatively recent for me, it's relatively recent for me that I connected to my business, but I've always been a very like self-work person, just because then I always see the fruit of like when you gone through a lot of shit in my life. So I've done a lot of self-work through a lot of things. I think, I don't know. I actually don't know if I can pinpoint that. I think it's been a very, very slow journey, but I think I think there's a way in which there was a few moments where I kind of came to the place where I was like, okay, I'm done with this. Like, there's gotta be another way. Like, I'm not slaving away doing this job, slaving away doing my entrepreneurial job and not really seeing anything. I think there's a way in which last year I actually just kind of took a break. I was feeling a bit burnt out. I was doing like private tastings during like that like holiday season and of 2020, I guess I was 21. And I was really growing my business. and I just felt burnt out. And so I kind of stepped back and I was like, hold on, I'm successful. I'm sharing wine. I'm talking about wine, but why am I not feeling fulfilled in it? I'm like, I thought this is what I wanted to do. I'm like, I'm doing all these things I want to do and I'm not feeling fulfilled. So I took a little bit of a break, and not even like consciously, I just put it down because I was like, I don't know. I feel burnt out. Why do I feel burnt out? And it took me almost about 8 or 9 months to come back to the place of, no, this is really what I want to do, but how do I not be burnt out? And how do I find joy and purpose in it rather than being just, I know a lot about wine. I know I can connect with people. I know I'm relatively good with that, but how do I find purpose in it? And then that's kind of when I dove in and come to this place where I'm like, little things like, I was like, I need to practice what I preach. And like, I'm pretty good at that, but like, I take Sundays, I put my phone on do not disturb. I make a beautiful meal and I spend time outside in my garden and making food and enjoying time like that. So, and the more I do that, the more I feel like I can share that and the real meaning behind that. So,
so what were the tools that you started gathering while you were on your break in order to actually get to this point of being able to share?
I felt like I wasn't in a, like, so it was really, I like took on a couple of like entrepreneurial, or I took on a 9-month entrepreneurial course that really focuses on, like, it has a big spiritual and energetics focus, which I'm actually still going through right now. Yeah, like it's funny. Sometimes like I've started to talk about energetics in business, and I know some people are like, they're not quite there yet, and that's okay. But it has changed my world. Yeah, I'll give a shout out. I'm doing this course by Jamie C, her name is, and she has a business called the Rising Wolf Collective, I believe is what it's called. And really cool. Really cool, actually. I've been wanting to do this course. Like I've been wanting to do this course for a while. I've been following her. She's like someone I really looked up to. I was like, ooh, I love your energy. I love your business. This is the kind of thing I want. Funny enough, I like won a scholarship to get this course, which is super cool. And yeah, it's like it's not only changing my business, it's like changing my whole life. It's awesome. Yeah.
No, and you can tell, like I've known you for a couple of years, and we've connected here and there, and every now and then I would reach out like, hey, I see you. I see you're doing great. Yeah. And now it's like, I see you. You're able to not only show up as a body, you're now a spiritual being in the human experience. Right. And that's the coolest part of what I've seen within your growth. It's like you're able to then capture each and every aspect of who you are. And I think that's one of the things about the entrepreneurial life or love or whatever you want to call it. If we neglect the essence of who we are, and we are simply trying to create how do I put this? Simply trying to create a physical outcome without making a spiritual growth, it becomes really, really daunting. Whatever we do will always hit a ceiling, and we hit a plateau, and it's really hard to get over that. But if we're able to maneuver our way and understand the journeys and the lessons that we have to get in order to up level to that next thing, we're able to create something that is unfathomable to ourselves. And when we're building a life of love, and we're building a life of service, and we're building a life of community, we need to continuously grow hand in hand with our physical self, our spiritual self, our mental self, our emotional self. Because if we let one of those lag, we're going to be constantly dragged down. I think from what I heard from you is that finally you've been able to have all of yourselves start to align. And
Yeah.
it's been really, really amazing seeing this journey from an onlooker. I can't even imagine what it's like for you.
Yeah. 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 It's funny, you know, I've come to this place where I'm like so happy with what I'm doing. And before I was coming at it with this idea of like desperation, like I need to do this full time. I need to get out of this. And as soon as I let go of the desperation and just started creating like things that I thought were beautiful and experiences that I thought were beautiful and that I'd want to take part of, and then also for myself, the more I'm like, I've let go of outcomes and just, and I saw somebody post something today and I was like, that is it. It was like, the measure of success is a calm nervous system. And I'm like, that's no joke. Like,
no joke.
That's no joke. Like not being stressed out about everything all the time and like an outcome. I'm like, oh, maybe I'm actually just okay. I can do whatever I don't know. I'm just like, yeah, I've gone through a very big transformation lately, but yeah, I'm like, yeah, I just like calm nervous system. That's where it's at. I'm like, I'm happy.
That's so good. And now that you're here, you're creating an amazing community.
Yeah.
While giving the experience of food and wine, what are the key elements that make or create togetherness while you're hosting these complete strangers in either your home or at their place? What are those key elements, and how do you cultivate those key moments in order for that togetherness, community of belonging to actually happen?
Yeah. I think I would say also, or I'd go back to also saying, you know, trusting myself in that I'm creating an experience that I think is pretty damn cool and pretty lovely. But one of the things is creating a unique food and wine experience to me is creating the experience in a place where it's never existed before.
Ooh, that's good.
I think like it's really this, you know, it's bringing food and wine into a space where people don't usually have food and wine. So it's like, so like last summer I did a dinner series and I hosted them at my home. I have like a big, beautiful deck. It's not like you have to be like in my kitchen or anything. Mm-hmm. Big, beautiful deck in the trees. And the idea started just because I was like, I don't know, what if people just come to my house for food and wine? Mm-hmm. I literally just said that. And anyways, it was like people literally bought tickets and they're like, we're going to your house. And I'm like, yes, but people knew when they bought tickets, but like, I would say about 50% of the people would be like, oh, sweet. Cause they kind of knew, or they knew somebody else who had come before. And then 50% of the people would be like, this is weird, but I like that. Mm-hmm. Challenging. Like, I think there's a way in which you challenge people and put them in a bit of uncomfort, yet to realize that this is like a completely different, like sitting on my deck. And again, I'm not sitting having dinner, but I am like sitting and explaining wines and explaining the courses. And then a small group of people who don't know each other, maybe a couple people here and there, right? Because they come with either like a friend or a partner. They're really forced. There's 8 people at this little table. Well, bigger table, but you know what I mean? 8 people at this table. They're forced to be in an uncomfortable situation at first, even though they wanted to come, of course. So there's some intent there. Mm-hmm. But being in like a bit of uncomfort and having to talk to people you wouldn't normally talk to, like it really is a bit of a forced, and I don't think that, I don't mean that in a negative connotation, forced obviously, in any way, honestly. But I think I was thinking about it when I was speaking at this event last Friday, was about this idea of I want to bring wine. This was just wine. There was only snacks, so it wasn't a meal, but bringing wine into a space where there isn't usually wine. Mm-hmm. So I think that if I look at this more from an industry perspective, there's nobody bridging the gap between like, a classroom stuffy wine education where you go for a course and you listen to a PowerPoint and like, you know, if you don't know anything about wine, what does it matter if the appellation is on the hill or on the ground? No, you know, like why talk about aspect or the ocean breeze that's goes. Yeah, some of those things are cool, but then the other option is just at a restaurant where, you know, to be honest, unless you're, you know, there's not a lot of wine knowledge in restaurants. Like there's maybe the one person who does the wine list and it's lovely, but most of the people on the floor aren't. They're going to be able to give you a couple of cool pointers, but they're not going to be able to really give you an experience with the wine because they just don't know. And post-pandemic, it's even worse, right? Like all of the people who were great in this industry left well, not all of them. A lot of people who were really great in this industry left the industry because of it, because they were stuck in jobs that pandemic just did not, you know, obviously you couldn't work in those spaces. Yeah. So all that to say, bridging a gap for people. So bringing a new experience and bringing a little bit of an uncomfortable and like new places for these things. So the way I see it is that I still do have some wine classes for people who want to dive in, but again, it's not traditional. It's very like very approachable. And then sort of like I guess, so like wine sessions and then private tasting. So going into people's homes, that's another thing that's like different, right? And then I have my pop-up events. So the pop-up events I see as total creative outlets. And the other two are a little bit more, but like I'm doing a private tasting this Friday night with a group and it's 10 people and they're doing the meal and we've worked on all the wine pairings and the foods together. And yeah, it's been this really creative process. Creativity is really, I just don't want everything to be the same. And sometimes I wonder, I'm kind of going on a tangent here, but sometimes I wonder, you know, everyone's like, be consistent in business, be consistent with this, be consistent in that. And I'm like, yeah, in some degree, but I have like realizing more about, it has to be creative for me as well, or it just becomes robotic. So how can I interact with people who also, you know, it's finding that like dream client who want to interact and be creative with you.
I think from what I heard you say is that what you're doing is that you're able to put people willingly in a position that creates a fundamental space to connect and grow with strangers. Yeah. And because everybody is in that space, there's nobody that's exactly in their element. Everybody is coming in together to commune with you, but with this wine, with the food, and most importantly, with people that they would never normally have a conversation with. And when you open up your doors and you open up this space that allows them to be stretched, people have to step up to the plate. And that's a really incredible space to be in, because we cannot grow if we don't have a bit of chaos. Right? So you cultivate this bit of chaos, this the bit of the unknown, to help facilitate growth within each individual. And I think because of that, you do it in 3 different stages. You do it on the personal stage, you do it on the knowledge stage with the teachings, but you also do it in a, and I would call it a subconscious stage, where they don't really know that this is happening, that they have to become strength, that they have to maneuver their way through things differently. But because it's so intimate, there is no other option but to start connecting, but to step out of your comfort zone, but to. And I think if I can see anything that is really killer, it's that.
Interesting. Yeah, I like that. That's a cool breakdown. It's cool to be able to say, you know, go on tangents and talk about it, and you have that breakdown. It's very interesting.
Yeah, because that's what I'm hearing. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, without that experience, without that need, like everybody can go to a restaurant and go with their family and friends and people that they absolutely know and love and adore, and just have a meal and taste some wine. But it takes a special thought process to step into something that's already new, that's a bit scary, that will make you have a different perspective on what you're trying to do. And you're providing the perfect element for that, the perfect space. And I have to commend you on that. So bringing it back to community and the need to create community, what have you learned along this 2-year process that really allows you to connect, not only on the face-to-face, but also on social media, also on your email list, also on your website, because that's a crucial part. Having that connection and having that space of invite while people are learning about you, because you can't talk to everybody, but you're doing an incredible you have an incredible approach to invite. What have you learned in order to make sure that is actually true and that is happening?
Like the most simple thing ever: be authentic.
You say it's simple, but it's the hardest thing. Most people
know.
can't be authentic because they don't know themselves enough.
Yeah. And I think that's, and it just goes back to like, get to know yourself. If you're an entrepreneur, the journey has just started. It's never ending, but get to know yourself, because I think the more, one of my coaches in my program, she always says she's like, let your freak flag fly. And I'm like, I love that. Like, be as authentic as you can be, but also like, I guess if we're talking like just social media, website, like web stuff, I've had a lot of great people, kind of coach me through, speaking to the people, I guess really having this vision of like, I know who I want to speak to. And I know that they will be receptive to the way in which, I'm not for everyone and not everybody is for everybody. So, being the most authentic, and then really just like really honing in and speaking to the person who I want to like attend an event or be in relationship with in business. And, I think, it's not an easy thing to do, but the answer is be authentic.
So how did you come up with the vision of your ideal customer? And what is your ideal customer as well?
Yeah. So it's pretty much me 10 years ago.
And who is that? Who's Samantha 10 years ago?
It's it's the young woman who's like really excited about food and wine and maybe not really knowing why, like not knowing why, wanting to know more, like not only hungry for like connection, like we keep talking, but also hungry for the knowledge of wine, because I was just so fascinated by it. It encompasses so many things beyond just like a product to me. And then, just someone who wants to like be in community with other people and talk to other people in that same community. So, and then, if we get down to the like, and I've actually honed in on that a lot more. And I have like some new strategy that I'm going to implement with some more snippets. Cause I find I actually sometimes tend to be all on the like experiential side, where I want to share more snippets of like actual little knowledge snippets, which I do, but kind of going back and really thinking about that ideal client, really. I keep trying to make it not me 10 years ago, but it always is. And I'm like, that's okay. So I think, that would be.
Interesting. So while growing your tribe, how do you find that right? Like, I know that you said that you want to be that you're speaking to the person, you 10 years ago, but you're also speaking to a very nuanced group of people that need to connect with you on a different level. And I know that you said, okay, you have your authentic self, you want to show up, and you're speaking to Samantha 10 years ago, but there's a lot of people that are looking at you and are watching you, and that you have to wade through in order to get to that person. How do you know that you found them after they've already said yes? Because there's a lot of people that try and test the waters, but you've been building a community that is extremely loyal. You've been building a community that are risk takers and that are willing to get to that space. So what is the messaging that allows you to connect with them on such a different level than just here's some information?
I think because I think it's because I think my story it's obvious online that it goes beyond wine. Like, I don't just share facts or little videos on facts. I'm really open about my own process and about what really matters to me. So I think I'm going to keep saying, but I think it goes back to that authenticity piece where it's like, if I'm showing, this is what it means to me, then other people can like cling on to the meaning of it. I also think, like, I don't even think of, like, I like how you say community, because I don't think of, like, what some people would say customers. I do think about them like a community. So I'm always really open online as far as like send me a DM, ask me more questions about this. And like, I send a lot of voice memos over text, so like people can hear my voice and my intent, and like just really trying to be interactive and not just hear stuff. It's like, this is an interactive environment, and really trying to, like a couple conversations I had on Friday night at the pop-up around, those were about like facts, like, hey, I've been looking for something like this. There's this unicorn wine I've never been able to find. It's like, this is what I want it to be like. I'll just say, I'm going to be tired tomorrow. I probably won't respond, but like, shoot me a message next week and like, let's talk about it, and I'll help you and I'll give you some suggestions. So like, it always can, like, really, I guess, knowing that it's community over customers, and that will eventually like lead into, well, I mean, again, not tied to outcomes, but, lead into something like the community growing. I guess I'll say that. Yeah.
Well, that was actually going to be my next question, is that where do you see yourself in the next 6 months, and how do you define your own personal success?
Yeah. So I'm like, like I said, I've like changed what I think success is, like literally within, I would say, this calendar year. The next 6 months for me, I don't know what they'll hold, but I hope that, I guess my only hope is that enough people want to interact with me that I can like share my love for wine and food and all of this. And, there's like other things I want to grow with my business and do better, but ultimately, I guess by the end of the year-ish, I don't know. I'm not tied to an outcome, which is really funny. Success to me really just looks like continually being able to connect with people like this, and to be able to like really enrich people's lives in some way. And if I'm doing that, then we'll see. Like, obviously I have things I want to do, like, but I don't have a time frame connected to it very much. But I definitely eventually want like laptop life, but yeah.
What does that mean?
It means I want to, because for me, a lot about food and wine is so tied to travel as well. It's a
Mhm.
big part of like something I'm really passionate about, because it's that same thing. It's like going out of your comfort zone, seeing different cultures, different communities, different foods, different ways of interacting. I would love for that, just personally, for me to be more a part of my life. So that's why my business has been situated as an educational business and a mobile business. Cause I have played around with the idea of opening a wine bar. Oh man, the amount, like I have business plans started. I have all sorts of things. And it's every time I get to that, I'm like, I cannot be tied to brick and mortar. It's just not who I am. Going back to like really knowing what I want for my business. So I guess next 6 months, I really just want to continue what I'm doing. I don't see a brick and mortar in my future. I don't see anything that I want to just continue. I hope that like, some of the experiences can get bigger and maybe a little bit more busy with some of the like private experiences that people book in. That's actually the busiest thing I do, is the private experiences, which is really cool. And then yeah, I don't know. I just know I want to be mobile, and I know that I want somehow travel to be a part of that. And I don't know when or what that will look like, but
That's amazing. I've had the opportunity to interview a lot of really successful guests. From Ernesto, he is the liaison for Fear of God, For Us Designs, Steve Buscemi Shoes. Like, this man is connected, in Italian through and through, just like beautifully connected.
Yeah.
And everything that he looks at as success is never tied into an outcome, and always tied into a feeling. And every person that I like, Kenya Hill is the exact same thing. She's America's Next Top Model. Luis Velasquez, he's an executive at Fabletics. They all tie their success not to a physical outcome, but to a feeling of what it could be for somebody else, and how can we serve as much as possible by living in joy and giving of love. And and from what I hear from you is that that's exactly what your success is. I just want to be able to figure out how I can serve more people with more love, and give them the experiences that they never thought possible within their homes, within their communities, and within the world. And that gives you the ability to live the life that you want, while being able to travel, while being able to educate, and most importantly, while being able to create a community.
Yeah. That's really beautiful. Thank you for saying that like that. It's really confirming, and it's really beautiful. And it makes me think of one of my favorite, this is my favorite entrepreneurial quote of all time, is the success you have for yourself is showing the light of what's possible for others. That's it.
Yeah.
And so that's really, like, I have that written in every notebook. Like, that's just how am I showing the light of what's possible for others through what I'm doing? Because that can translate to anything. Often, what I think about my business, I'm like, I'm passionate about wine. Yes, it's about wine, but it's not really about wine.
It never is.
It never is. The product. It's about how it is, the feeling, and it's about, it's really showing the light of what's possible for others, and beautiful experiences.
Yeah, I 100% agree. That's why Perfit is such an important part of my life. I'm not, clothing is clothing, but being able to give somebody the feeling of confidence, to be able to give somebody the feeling of just being hugged when they put something on, being able to give an experience that is above all, is why I love fashion. Because I believe the fashion can do all that. I believe the fashion can really change your own personal human experience to become something that is not only beautiful, but something that is so needed within a human being. It's how we we present ourselves to the world. And you're doing that exact same thing with food and wine, giving people the experience, but most importantly, expressing yourself through the love that you have for people.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I love that. It's also makes me think, you know, what you're saying as well is everybody, you know, every entrepreneur has some sort of product, right? For, you know, this fashion, the app, all of the things you're working on. And it's, and what I hear you saying too is it's really, as an entrepreneur, it's not only the love, but it's also the, I guess, the education piece is like when you change the way you think about something, you change the way in which you experience it. So when you change the way you think about how my clothes feel on me or how I feel in these colors maybe today, right? I change the way I think about myself and how I'm interacting with the world. When I change the way in which I think about that glass of wine, instead of just being oh my God, it's the end of the day, I need a glass of wine, I'm thinking about, this is actually an agricultural product. I'm experiencing it in a more meaningful way. And I think everybody's looking for meaning. So yeah.
Big time. You know, I had I forget where I heard this quote, but he or she was talking about clothing, and it just stood out to me, and it's like spoke so clearly. And it was clothing isn't there for you to fit into. Clothing is there to fit you.
Ooh,
right?
I love it. Yeah.
It's beautiful because you're no longer trying to like contort yourself as a human being into this thing that may be too tight, that may not be yours for your body type. But if you can learn to choose the things that fit you well, in whatever aspect of life that may be, whether it be clothing, whether it be wine, whether it be food, whether it be your friends, your community, whatever it may be, but they fit you well, and you learn how to choose those things for you, your life, your heart, your mind, your body just is so much happier. So much happier. And I think from our conversation, what we are trying to do is that.
Yeah. Ooh, this is deep. I like it. If we're not going deep, what are we doing? I like it.
Exactly. With that being said, I think that's a great space to finish off the podcast.
Agreed.
Samantha, you have been absolutely fantastic. I have loved learning about your journey. I've loved learning about your business and how you're able to connect and create community. And I've loved learning about you. So thank you so much for being on here. And I look forward to seeing all the things that you do in the very near future and the long distance future.
Oh, thank you, Giuseppe. It's like been such an honor. I really say that. I was listening to a few of your other podcasts and your guests, and I just feel like completely honored to be on here. So this was a lovely conversation. And I love how these conversations have been so rich. And I feel like I'm walking away with more richness. So it's great. So thank you.
Thank you. It's been absolutely fantastic. And for everybody out there, we will see you next time. Thank you for listening to Geppe's Pod. Make sure to share, like, and subscribe. We thrive from your feedback. Please let us know what you thought of our guest and this episode. From all of us at Perfit, see you next time.